What's going on, Purple People podcast fans? Welcome to this week's show. It is Sunday, January 5th. It's finally 2020. Happy New Year. I am joined by Kyle West. What's up, dude?
Hey, this is our first podcast of the new year, correct?
It is.
What a great way to start it out, too, with a big old Vikings victory.
Right.
I like that we're all here. It's been a while.
That's true.
That, too.
That's a good point. That's Adam Carlson for you guys that are just joining the show.
Maybe I usually have a thing over here that says my name, so
you have to do normally it's on there, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to mine either. That's okay.
I tried it earlier; it wasn't letting me, but we'll figure it out. We got the Eagles and the Seahawks finish it out wild card weekend right here. 1:47 to go in the fourth quarter. Seahawks are up 17-9. It looks like they, barring a stupid turnover, which they've done before. Yeah, I think the Seahawks are going to win. And that's the game we want. We want to see Seahawks in Green Bay next weekend, right?
I'd like to see that. I want to watch that game.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
I think it'd be cool. Marshawn Lynch is back. Scored a touchdown today. Good for him. But we're not here to talk about that just yet. This is episode number 377 of the Purple People podcast. This is called the Zim Reaper. I wanted to give Mike Zimmer all the credit in the world today because the Vikings pulled off an upset that I'll be the first to admit I had no faith in this team whatsoever. With the lackluster 10 points against Green Bay at home and then nobody getting many reps last week, I thought for sure it was going to be a one and done, but the Vikings played their ass off today. It was a really, really good game, and the defense was second to none. They were very, very good.
Coming to this game, I got to admit, I was not excited. It's a playoff game. I should have been, nervous and everything. I came in. My expectations for this game were low. All the media, all the experts out there, a lot of them were saying that this was going to be a double-digit Saints win, and it was hard to argue with that logic. They got home field advantage. Minnesota looked like they were struggling. There were injuries in the secondary for the Vikings. Saints have so many talented players in certain spots, and somehow none of that mattered.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a lot of narratives today. We're gonna give our game balls and donkeys away like we always do after each game. But what a showing today, and just the attitude was different right from the start. Even though the Vikings fumbled, they took the ball to start, which I thought was awesome. They usually defer. Adam Thielen fumbles early, and you're thinking, man, not again. This is how we start, but this team wasn't shaken very much today. They answered the call, and of course, it comes down to overtime. Why wouldn't it?
Right.
But I like the mentality. Like I said, they were aggressive pretty much the entire day. More so on the defense, but on the offense as well. They had some very good bright spots. Dalvin Cook good again.
Right. This was not an easy game. There was some adversity that the Vikings had to overcome. They left the same thing. There was at one point where they were up. 2010, the Saints mount a comeback. Like you said, the Vikings turned the ball over a little bit. It looked like New Orleans had a lot of the momentum. It was turning into one of those performances by Minnesota where you're like, yeah, they're going to do what they're going to do. But they were able to overcome all of that and pick up a victory. So that is definitely a good positive thing for this team to build upon. We're kind of looking for that signature moment from Kirk Cousins, and I don't know if the whole game is a signature moment for him, but oh boy, did he manage to come up in overtime with the big play to Adam Thielen to get them in scoring position, and then the throw to Kyle Rudolph to just flat out seal the victory. I think that was definitely what Kirk Cousins needed to do for him to help overcome some issues that he's had as well.
Not only that, but on that drive, Cousins connected, I believe it was with Diggs, on a third down pass. That was just essential. And he zipped that thing in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cousins was better than expected today, and he did the trifecta today. Beat a winning team. Technically, it was prime time because it was the only game that was on, and it was on the road. And he got a bonus. He got his first playoff win. Vikings' first road playoff win since 2004 against the Packers.
Beat a team with a winning record out on the road.
Man, a 13-3 streaking hot Saints team. And the thing that I like the most is none of the Saints players or coaches were complaining after this game. I know the last 3 years have been nothing but heartbreak for that team and franchise and all their fans. But Drew Brees and Sean Payton, I watched their press conferences. There was nothing there.
Don't go to Michael Thomas's Twitter account then.
I don't care about that. Sorry, dude.
And don't listen to Jordan's post-game conference either.
Oh, Cam Jordan?
Yeah.
Of course you're going to be salty, man. You talked all that shit this week on Kirk Cousins, and he made you look like a fool. I can't. You got to take it in stride, man. The Vikings played the underdog role almost as good as kind of like the Eagles did a couple of years ago. Everybody counted them out because Wentz went down, and they just came in and showed up, and that's what the Vikings did today. So good for them.
Absolutely.
You know what, man? It's especially a good win for the Vikings because New Orleans is loud. You got to hand it to their fans.
Oh, yeah.
They definitely have the home field advantage. That is not an easy environment for any team to go into. Because what was the game I watched last night? The Titans and the Patriots. Like it's not that loud. Like that. Those New Orleans fans really get at it, and they really make it difficult for opposing teams to come in. So that's definitely something I wanted to bring up as well too.
Now next week, San Francisco game, there are a lot of Vikings fans centered there in California. They're going to be able to get in that stadium, and they are going to be able to counter a lot of that noise. I think the Vikings are going to have a little easier time at the venue than they would have at the Superdome. So the venue to me is a little less of a factor going forward.
Correct.
I think the next week we'll preview that game later too. I think next week's going to be a very similar as far as the opponent. The quarterback's good. You got a great receiver, even though their leading receiver's a tight end. Got a good running game. Their defense is phenomenal. So we're already entered in as a road dog again, as we should.
That's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. We accept that role. We excel in that role a little bit.
Yeah, and Scott, he confirmed it. So the Seahawks just won in Philly, as we all, at least I thought they would.
DK Metcalf had a big catch to put the game away.
That's a grown man right there. Good Lord. That is a full-grown man. I'm watching his post-game right now. That's a big dude.
Scott says that the 49ers are 7-point favorites next week.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by there. I was getting there. But, yeah, we're already 7-point dogs, as we should be. This is the number one seed. Deservedly, they went into Seattle in Week 17 to win their division and secure that number one spot. So this is going to be a rough road to the Super Bowl if the Vikings somehow get there. But
hey, you know what though, man? It's the playoffs. There are no easy games in the playoffs. They're all difficult.
Correct.
It's just a matter of how difficult you think they are. And I think it's a positive for the Vikings too, for them to not get full of themselves. I like the way that was one of the first things that Zimmer brought up when he's talking to the team in the locker room, where he's like, "Hey, good win, guys." I'm going to paraphrase, but he was like, "Good win, guys, but remember what happened with the miracle play where we came out and they looked really flat afterwards." And I heard reports of guys like Harrison Smith in the locker room kind of stepping up and being like, "Hey, we can celebrate, but we need to focus. We need to keep focused here. Like we can't get too ahead of ourselves."
Rod Haas has the formula right here. We played the Niners, I think 2 years ago. No, it was the beginning of last year. And it was the Mike Hughes pick six game. It was in Minnesota. Granted, it was the first start as a Niner for Jimmy G, all that. But, yes, if you pressure Jimmy Garoppolo, he will be off on his throws. I've seen that many, many times watching the Niners this year.
Yeah, right.
But the problem is just the playmakers and what Shanahan has built around the team. And they have a defense to where if the offense kind of sucks that day, the defense can carry the load, man. So it's going to be a tough game, but we'll get into the 49ers game later. I want to do some game balls and donkeys, man.
Right. Let's get at it.
I'll let Adam go first because he said he didn't have one, but I have mine ready to go. And it was hard to pick one.
Oh, so it makes a guy who is on the spot go first. Let's see how this goes.
If you want to wait, we can. I'll give mine.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path here, and I'm going to give my game ball to Andrew Sendejo.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought you were going to do that.
Andrew Sendejo, typically a safety, he played nickel corner for the first time in his career during this game. He played at a very high level. He had some pass breakups. He was good in coverage. He was very physical. When he was thrust into that role, it was because of the injuries to the other cornerbacks. And the reason that Sendejo got brought back is because of his familiarity. And basically, the Vikings were playing this game with 3 very solid tackling safeties. And that's one great reason why the Vikings were able to contain the run as well as they did. Even though Sendejo didn't rack up a lot of tackles during the game, he was in the right place to avoid throws. And Drew Brees loves throwing to places on the field, not to players. He has those timing routes, and if there's a player that is going to be open at a certain point, he will throw the ball. And Andrew Sendejo was in the right place most of the time to avoid those throws. So yeah, he's not going to have a ton of pass defenses, but he did something for the team. He did it at a high level, something he'd never done before. And I saw a report on Twitter that he was the last man out of the locker room, and he was just exhausted after working nickel, working special teams, and just struggled in that locker room from exhaustion. So hopefully he can get a little bit of rest and relax a little bit because he earned a game ball.
Yeah, let's not undersell that point, Adam, too, is that it's like he's out there playing a new position on the field, only in the wild card game, important game here. And
right.
by the way, you have to go full speed on special teams out there as well, too. So have fun. Good luck. Yeah, he's got to be exhausted. That was a good performance from him.
Yeah, that Vikings secondary, as banged up as it was, they needed somebody to step up. I didn't know who it was going to be. I didn't know if it was going to be Boyd or Hill or who it was. They decided to try Andrew Sendejo in a new role, and it was good.
Kyle, who's your game ball going to, man?
I'm going to go with Everson Griffin. I thought Everson was out there. He was eating. I said that in our private chat earlier in the day. He was out there eating. They were doing that cool defensive front where they were moving Everson inside, and then they had Danielle Hunter lined up alongside him on the outside, and they were just wreaking havoc with the Saints, getting to Drew Brees, making plays. I thought that was a really good performance from Everson Griffin. If there was definitely a time of year where we need players like Everson to show up, it's right now, and I thought that was a good scheme from Mike Zimmer as well too. So good coaching, good way to find a creative way to get your players out there and put them in positions to succeed.
Well, Scott Schwab stole mine. You jerk. Thanks for letting me put that up there. No, I named this episode after Mike Zimmer, and I'm giving him my game ball. There's a couple reasons why. The mentality going in, like I said, he was immediately addressing that to the team. Hey, remember what happened last time? We got excited because of a playoff win, and it was against his team. We're not going to do that again. I like the different looks that he did today. One being what Kyle was just talking about now. Mm-hmm. They had Everson Griffin on the inside, right next to Danielle Hunter, confused a little bit, and they attacked weaknesses. And what it was really good was this wasn't one of those games where they picked it apart because we didn't change anything up. We've preached it on this show as a collective group at least 3 or 4 times this year. We want to see something a little different from Zimmer and the defense because, it's great, but sometimes it gets exposed because they don't change things up a lot. This is known in the national media too. I hear it on Chris Sims' podcast all the time, and I can't wait to hear what he says about that tomorrow because there was a couple of different looks. I like the way he motivated the team, and he came in before the game and he told the reporters, he's like, we're going to go in here and win this game. And I said it in the group chat. I said it to a couple of my friends. I said it on Facebook. The whole question about is Zimmer going anywhere? We know Cousins is going to be here next year. Even if we go out and get shellacked next week, Zimmer and Cousins can tell everybody to suck it this week because we weren't supposed to win this game.
The Fire Zimmer movement has quieted down quite a bit on Twitter.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's he's going to be here for a while, so he's locked that up, and it's a good point by the management for sticking by him. But I give my game ball to Mike Zimmer.
Can you highlight
Cowboy trade for him?
Who are they going to trade? Dak? Zeke? No. Can you highlight Rod's comment really quick here, though, because I do think that's a fair point. I definitely not a donkey. I don't agree with the donkey part of it, but I do think the defense when we were up, they started to kind of play back. And they started to play soft a little bit. I was not a fan of that either as well. So I do think that's definitely a fair criticism that you can make during this game.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to do the snake draft kind of deal. I'm going to give my game ball right now, or I'm sorry, my donkey right now. It's kind of an unpopular opinion, but when my dad notices it and he texts me about it, it's kind of a problem. My dad's a Kansas City Chiefs fan, so they have the week off. But Diggs throwing a fit on the sideline, I'm not a fan of that, man. And that's twice this year. I don't care if it happened earlier and it motivated the team or whatever else, and Thielen, whatever, we got to get Cousins to get fired up. Do we have a formula that's working? And it's called Dalvin Cook, and he's healthy. Don't make Cousins force the ball to you. You're going to get double teamed because nobody thought Adam Thielen was going to come out here and have a 100-yard day. I certainly didn't.
We needed him to.
Well, you needed it, of course, but I didn't plan for that to happen. I'm sure a lot of people didn't think that he was as healthy as he looked today. But don't throw a fit on the sideline, man. Just keep it together. I understand that you're passionate and you want the ball, but go with the game plan, because he was all smiles in the locker room after they won. But I didn't like that throwing the helmet around diva behavior out there. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and piggyback off you. We haven't done that for a while. The old piggyback. But Stephon Diggs is also my donkey as well for the reasons that you outlined right there. We've always called him kind of like diva light, and his diva light behavior showed up in this game. And I understand where he's coming from. Like, you want the ball in the hands of your playmakers, and Stephon Diggs is a playmaker. There were times where it's like, who the hell's the receiver? I don't remember the receiver's name. He dropped the pass. What was it?
Holloway,
like
Alexander Hollins.
Really? Yeah, Hollins, like really, like we're throwing balls to him. Like, I would much rather that be Stephon Diggs. But it's not all easy for Field. So he's got to do a better job of, like, don't piss with Kirk Cousins. Like, don't make him try to fit the ball to you in the most important game of the season. Like, we just need to take what's given to us on the field.
All right, guys, I'm sorry, but my donkey's Kyle Rudolph.
Oh no!
Oh no!
He absolutely pushed off in the end zone.
On that play. Doesn't think so, sir.
No, yes, yeah, I bet they do. But I bet they also saw Kyle Rudolph's hand get grabbed on his jab. So they were put in a position where they had to either call OPI and counter it with DPI, or make it a no call, and then they made it a no call. That's what I'm thinking. But with the game on the line, how much do you really kind of want to test the boundaries with the rule book?
That's a true point, but we got away with it. So
if he'd have been called for that OPI, the Vikings would have moved back, or it would have been fourth down, and it would have had to kick a field goal. This game changes completely. He rolled the dice on the Vikings season with that play in order to get a little bit extra room. And I don't know, sitting at home, I had seen on the ESPN stat tracker the result of the play before I saw the play, because I was on a delay with my viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Twitter and I saw everybody excited and kind of upset and confused. And I've got Saints fans on my timeline too, and they were just going off. And I had to watch the play, and yeah, he absolutely fully extended his arm. And if that Saints player hadn't grabbed that arm, I think that this would be a completely different game.
Yeah, it would have pushed the question as to whether or not they would have went for it on fourth down. I think you'd probably take the points, but that was a gamble. But I'm glad to see that the refs let these guys play, because there was a couple other, I won't say questionable call. I don't want to go to questionable, but there's a couple times through the game where they let receivers and corners duke it out. And I don't think the officiating crew had anything to do to deal with this game, whether it was a win or a loss. So I'm just happy that wasn't another, God forbid you have 3 years in a row where the Saints fans are calling to get the NFL changed for them. So,
well, they are.
Yeah, talk about that. If we really want to give a donkey away, we could tell the Saints fans to shut the hell up, because the NFL needs the college overtime rule. Yeah, that benefits you when you lose an overtime game. Here's an idea, as I said in the group chat. Or you don't let Cousins make the throw of his career and bomb what it was, like a 40-yard pass to Adam Thielen. Or don't let him catch that ball or throw it. Maybe don't do that. I don't know.
You know what, though? I'm friends with a couple Saints fans and stuff, and I got some on my Twitter and whatnot, and most of them are pretty cool about it. It's only that vocal minority that's out there complaining, and that's the same with any fan base for any team. You got the bad apples that are just really loud about that stuff. But
I agree completely with what South Star says there.
Major accounts like Pro Football Focus. they're over there, bitching and being emotional. Dude, be a professional, man. You're supposed to be a non-biased stats and information-based page. Clearly, whoever is tweeting out stuff for their account is an emotional Saints fan, and this is why I say I'm not a fan of a touchdown wins. Well, you know what? Then don't watch if that's the way you feel about it. Turn it off when it goes to the end of regulation and they're tied. Then because it's so stupid.
No, I don't think love it or leave it's appropriate. You can enjoy something without enjoying every aspect of it. And yeah, they can keep complaining about the rule. You can campaign for the rule and still enjoy the game. But in the end, you have to overcome a lot of calls. The Saints, they didn't get a call, and like South Star says, the defender was playing Rudolph and not the football. If he had turned and looked at the football, or if he hadn't grabbed his hand, yeah, that would have been absolutely no PI. But I don't know. To me, we've said it before in the chat, and you hear it all the time. You have to be able to outplay referee mistakes. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
You can't allow the referees to put that position on you. And yeah, this could have been a completely different game for the Saints had a couple things changed. So I don't know.
If there's one thing I think we can all agree on, and I'm talking about like NFL fans in general, just not Vikings fans or Saints fans, it's that NFL officiating needs to be more consistent.
Yeah, there are. If you went on Twitter, a lot of the refs.
What was that, Adam?
Yeah, if you went on Twitter, you'd see a lot of the former refs and head officials talking about how that should have been an OPI. And then you see other former officials and current officials tweeting out, that wasn't OPI for this reason and this reason. And it just goes even further to show the inconsistencies in officiating.
Correct. I'll be perfectly honest. I really don't care what the rules are and what they do.
As long as you know what to expect, right?
Yes, they just need to be consistent with what the rules are. I think that's what all fans want. Just be consistent with what the calls are. Like with your quarterback, we talk about this all the time. You could murder Andy Dalton on the field, and it don't matter. But Aaron Rodgers gets tippy-tapped, and the flags
do to you.
Well, I'm just saying you could they don't care. No. They don't call it the same for Andy Dalton as what they call it for Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees. They just don't.
No, I agree with you. But what I was saying earlier, I hear what Adam's saying. It's not you can't enjoy all, or you can't be all or nothing here. I get what you're saying there, but my point is, it's a lot like with government and the other rules, man. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. But if you know the answers to the playbook and the rules that you're doing, don't complain about it after the fact when you go in because it doesn't benefit the outcome of what you wanted. That's the thing that makes me the most mad.
Yeah,
these Saints fans are lobbying for the change. And dude, you knew this before you come in. This is how overtime works. That's
right.
Happened to the Chiefs last year. If Tom Brady and the Pats don't get the ball, do I think that Kansas City would have won that game? Absolutely. The kid was on fire last year, but that's how it works out. And there's always that little bit of luck and that little bit of chance. To play that what-if game or give him the ball, man, we could have done that. Adam and I were talking about that before Kyle joined us, before we went live. The what-if game is so overplayed, man. What if Thielen doesn't fumble? What if Dalvin Cook does fumble? I mean, there's so many what-ifs. I hate hearing that from people because it didn't turn out like they wanted him for their team.
Right. I don't like, and then we should probably talk more about, we should probably talk about the game at some point. I really don't like the idea that every time there's a call that doesn't go in your favor, now we need to lobby the NFL to change the rule book. Do we have to, are we going to do this every year now? It's like, oh, my team lost because of this rule. Blah, we need to change things.
As long as there's social media, I think there will be.
Oh yeah.
Because that to me is old. That gets irritating.
Oh, I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
And think about it. Firebreather makes a good point. They weren't complaining in 2009. We didn't have as big of a social media presence 10 years ago as we do now. So think about that. We were talking about it earlier. The Rams-Saints game last year, that was such a blatant no call. It was crap. Everybody that saw and watched that game, they know that was a crap missed call. But I'm glad that they got to do their thing and they got to complain about it. But what we can say today, and we'll move on from this and we'll go over stats and all that fun stuff, is the Saints lost today because the Vikings outplayed them. It was damn close, and I threw my chair a couple times in my kitchen. Because Taysom Hill was destroying us, but the Vikings they made more plays, and good on them. I am so stunned that we won this game and we survived another round. This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's surprising the Vikings are going to be around for another week. I think that surprising is the right word, because there were times during the season that the Vikings looked like a top contender, and then there were times that you just didn't really understand what they were doing or what was going on with this team, and nothing was really working out well. So to see the good version of the Vikings going on right now, it's exactly what you want to see, and I'm curious if this is going to be able to continue through.
Well, we lost Wes for a minute. I'm sure he'll be back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. All you guys in the chat that are jumping around and agreeing, we agree with you too, man. We just want them to get it consistent. We don't want the refs to be a part of it, but we're definitely glad that the Vikings just came out and they just won, which is great. I guess we can run down some stats unless you guys have anything else before we jump down those.
No, I'm good.
Kirk Cousins had a good day. There was a couple of times where I thought he was going to regress back to like cocooning up or whatever. Taking a sack through there kind of made me mad, but all in all, there was no turnover from him, which is really nice. 19 of 31, 242 yards, QBR of 78.1, and a rating of 96.4. So he had a good day, and the touchdown. He had a touchdown there as well. So very, very happy for Kirk Cousins in this day. Got his first playoff win, man. Congratulations.
Now, Cousins did open the game a little inconsistent. He seemed a little shaky. His passes weren't exactly as crisp as he wanted them to be. And automatically, my first thought was, oh, no, we got bad Kirk. Thank goodness that the Vikings were able to take advantage of the run offense in that first half. And Kirk was able to come out and show that he was ready to play.
I don't blame him for being nervous. I mean, I know he's professional. That's what you get paid to do. But, man, I don't care. That's a loud, hostile environment to go into. I don't know how you could not. And that's the biggest game, probably the biggest game that he's played in his professional career. I don't know how you could not be borderline shitting yourself. Like, going out onto the field and, like, it would take me a little bit to calm down and like get into my groove for that one too. So I hope that he's kind of got that out of his system, and moving forward, he can just be more comfortable going out there against the 49ers.
This is a little off topic, but have you guys seen that video, the Kurt Dirt video?
No, I haven't. What's that? It's
something where some of the Vikings players have been calling Kirk Cousins a little bit of Joe Dirt, and it's funny. It's pretty funny. It's got David Spade in it. It's good.
No, I haven't, but I want to.
You'll have to send that out. That sounds pretty good. So what do you guys think on the topic of Kirk Cousins? I wanted to ask, is this a signature win for Kirk Cousins?
This is the biggest win of his career.
Absolutely.
You think so?
This is the headline of his resume right here.
100%. 10-6 going into a 13-3 road playoff game in primetime, and he won. And he was a major part of it. That bomb that was the biggest throw of his career. I'll say it right here.
I agree.
That throw to Thielen was the biggest play of his career.
Right.
Beautiful. And good job on Thielen for tracking it. But
yeah. If this would have been
since Thielen started opening pretty struggling too. He dropped some passes. He had that fumble. The fact that both of them kind of started out shaky, and towards the end they just put it all together was so nice.
I'm actually really glad that that's how they ended the game, with the big throw to Rudolph and the setup to with Adam Thielen, because that really did kind of like, those are two big signature moments from Kirk Cousins coming up clutch for the Vikings. If this would have been one of those games where it would have all been Dalvin Cook and Cousins wouldn't have done much, I don't know if you still have that narrative. If we would have just kind of ran the clock out and kind of barely squeaked off with a victory that way, I don't know if you're still talking about it being a signature moment or not.
Not sure either. And Kirk Cousins, he made a really interesting decision.
Got it.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. No, I'm just glad that he has it and that there wasn't this, one thing goes wrong and then he just falls apart. There were times that things didn't work out. There was a couple of risky throws or bobbles from the receiver, but the point being is like the game plan was set up the right way. The attitude, the mentality was there, and I can't believe they won this game. I'm still in shock, but
Yeah.
they outplayed them. They did. They came in their house, and what's crazy is that's a top 5 place in the NFL, the hardest places to play if you're not the Saints.
Kirk Cousins did something really wise during this game, and I was really surprised to see this because it goes against everything in your quarterback mentality to do. Towards the end of the game, when they were trying to run out the clock, Kirk dropped back to pass. The pressure got right on himself. And this is that sack that you were talking about at the end of the game. He pulled his arm back like he was going to throw it away. He brought it back down and he held on to it. Being able to fall down with that ball, take the sack, take the time off the clock. If not for that, the Saints would have had more time, and they probably would have had to have rushed. They might have actually gotten a touchdown out of that, and who knows what would have happened that little extra time. Kirk Cousins showed really veteran ability during this game, made some great decisions, and really sort of evolved throughout the game. So it was great to see.
It helps build good chemistry, too. Like, I know we're, year 2 of Kirk Cousins? We just won a wild card game. Like, what are we talking about chemistry for? But I think moments like really do help Huddle, and Cousins says, hey, this is going your way. That helps build trust. It's like maybe they believe him a little bit more in those big moments that he finally showed up.
I'm highlighting this comment until I see something better in the chat, because this is my favorite thing of the game. There's nothing I love more, because everybody can fall in line and they can talk crap about Cousins. Hell, I was one of them at one point in this season. But you got beat by the guy you talked shit about. When were we going to learn about that? Who was it that got cut? Was it the guy from the Eagles, the linebacker earlier this year?
Oh, yeah.
Talking shit on Kirk Cousins. They're not going to cut Cam Jordan, but, dude, just take your L and eat crow, man.
I hope the 49ers. Hey, man, I hope the 49ers start talking shit about us.
They already did.
Good.
Did they?
Good.
Really?
49ers head coach was already talking about how he gets to host the Vikings and then gets to host whoever they play after that. So
that's fucking amazing. Yeah, do it, man. Okay. This team seems to thrive on that.
So yeah, it's out there already.
Yeah, I like it.
Man, that's crazy. You know what? We'll take the Captain Kirk mantra and just go one game at a time, one play at a time. There's a lot of things that could happen, but this is cool. This is definitely, even if we go in, like I said, and get shellacked next week, this is a win for the team and a win for the fans, because it seems to be that we have ties with the Saints and the Seahawks now. We always play them. They're always around, blah, 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 blah.
Seahawks are on next year's schedule for some reason.
Yet again, we're going to Seattle, if you guys haven't heard yet. We're going to Seattle for like the 10th year in a row. Figure out. But,
yeah, I think they're in our division now, right? Yeah. They're part of them and the Saints are part of the NFC North.
They're in the NFC Northwest. That's it. Yeah.
Right.
Going back through, let's talk about Dalvin Cook for a little bit. 28 carries, 94 yards today, longest of 22, and 2 touchdowns. And I watched his post-game presser as well. I think it was on the national. It wasn't the presser for the Vikings. They talked to him after the show. I think it was Tom Pelissero. And he said, hey, I'll tote the rock as many times as they give it to me. I love this kid. There was a couple of times where he had some butthole pucker moments. And I thought towards the end of the game he was running a little bit more conservative because he didn't want to fumble. Glad he didn't. But Dalvin Cook was back. Almost did what no one has done in years and years. Saints haven't given up a single 100-yard rusher in a while, but the Vikings had 136 yards on the ground today, and they swayed the time of possession and the energy there a lot. So good job today from Dalvin Cook. We're so glad to have him back.
Yeah, if you look at the stat line for Dalvin Cook, you're not going to walk away super impressed. I think he only had like 3.4 yards per carry, but you got to remember a lot of those came on short yardage plays or on the goal line where you weren't going to get a lot of yardage. So the Minnesota really relied on him in those shorter situations, and we saw a nice mix of him and the other running backs coming in and out a little bit. So The run game was really important, and of course, it's hard to argue with 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, correct. Boy, you can really see the improvement in the Vikings run game when you've got Cook and Madison out there on the field. No disrespect to the 2 guys who filled in last week for us. What was it, Boone and Abdullah? But man, Cook in particular is a Cadillac for this Vikings. Like he really makes this offense run when he's out there on the field. He can
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say he can do special things with the ball in his hand.
Yeah, you got to give credit to Josh Klein and Brian O'Neill on this too. On that right side of the offensive line, for years we saw that right side of the offensive line with Joe Berger and Phil Lodeholt and all these big road grading offensive linemen that just would open up big holes, and we saw more of that this week. Of course, we got to see a little bit more of Dalvin Cook with those sweeps, which is a great play for him with his acceleration. But when you got Madison and some of these other running backs that just don't have the same kind of ability as far as acceleration, top speed, having them plow right behind him, it's nice, especially with CJ Ham having what I consider to be a really solid game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, shout out to the offensive line, man. They played very, very well today. You have to give them love.
Pat Elflein struggled a bit again, but at least he wasn't horrible. So thumbs up there.
Everybody else and having Josh Klein around is really, really good. Brian O'Neill to be like a solid tackle that's going to be here for a while. I like Bradbury's effort. He's not there.
He's learning
overall game yet, but he was out there trying to make plays today. He was out there throwing people around and running down and helping give blocks for Dalvin. So I like the offensive line, man. They much improved from last year. Going to receiving. Adam Thielen is back. 7 receptions on 9 targets, 129 yards, long of 43. Dalvin Cook 3 for 36. Rudy 4 for 31. Diggs 2 for 19.
Let's talk about Kyle Rudolph again for a second, because even though I gave him my donkey, we saw a little bit different of a version of Kyle Rudolph this game. He made defenders slip off him. He made a couple guys miss. Yeah. He was getting yards after the catch and yards after contact, which both things are very reassuring and nice to see.
Mm-hmm. Maybe because, he wasn't really utilized as much earlier in the season. Maybe he's a little fresher.
It's true.
At this point, even though he's, he is getting up there in age, but, he didn't see a lot of action earlier in the year. And I noticed that too, Adam. I'm glad you brought that up. Because usually Rudolph is like, he makes a catch and then he's down immediately. It was nice to see him be a little shifty, little shady, put some moves on out there on the field.
Look at Andrew Leota coming in with 2 clutch comments of the day. That's good right there. That's really good.
That's good stuff.
Oh, man. Yeah, shout out to the O-line. Shout out to the receivers, man. I didn't like the Diggs drama stuff on the side, but, each game's different. There will be a different matchup. The Niners have really good corners as well. Their defense overall is just great. So it's going to be a test, but it looks good that Thielen's back. And I see you guys in the chat talking about who's healthy and who isn't. I don't think anybody's going to be too banged up. I know Rhodes looked a little bit hurt, but he actually went back in.
Always looks hurt.
Who was it that went down? Was it Shamar Stephen?
Yeah, I think it was Shamar.
I haven't seen an update on him yet.
Remember, but I'm not sure his status.
Okay, guys, I have a prop here really quick.
Oh, God.
Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is?
A rubber?
It's an eraser. Do you know what the eraser is for? That trick play where we think we're going to have Stephon Diggs throw passes. We're going to use the eraser, and we're going to take that completely out of the playbook. Can we just never do that again?
Yeah, that needs to go.
Yeah, they've tried this a couple times now. Stop. Kirk Cousins is sneakier athletic than what you think, but there's never a situation where you're going to throw Kirk Cousins a pass and good things will come from it. And we don't need Diggs back there horsing around with that bullshit.
Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, they're good enough receivers. And, Dalvin Cook in the backfield. You don't need trick plays when you got an offense that full of weapons.
Now, don't get me wrong. I like the end around when they do the end around. Where they give it off to Thielen or they give it off to Diggs. They can make some positivity out of that. But anything more with the double reverses and the trying to wide receivers throwing passes, stop that shit. Just stop that shit right now.
Needs to go.
Yeah.
Your comment, you guys, I agree with you guys. I won't go piggybacking off of that. It's stupid. I don't want to see Kirk trying to catch balls because I don't want to see him get lit up when he tries to catch it. I'd rather see him run, and I don't like it when he runs. So just let him throw the ball. But to go to Rod and Andrew's comments, the reason we saw Hollins is because it's something we talked about in the chat today. Treadwell didn't play today. So, and we thought that was actually a loss.
That's odd. I found that to be odd.
He's not a great first round pick from the Vikings. We get it, but as Adam has pointed out, if you refer to him what he is now as a free agent pickup, he's good depth, and he's made a couple of catches this year in the clutch, and that's why you saw Hollins today versus Treadwell. So it'd be nice to have him back. He has a little bit more experience. He's a little bit better than that kid, but the only reason that kid didn't come down with that catch is because the defender played it so good. That was a clutch catch by him.
Yeah,
that was a great play out by the defender there, though.
Hollins nearly reeled that in.
It was really good. Good effort. Going down the line here, fumbles. Jalen Holmes recovered one. Adam Thielen fumbled once, as we mentioned. So
we got to talk about that fumble. The Danielle Hunter fumble recovery, or the strip sack. Okay, so Hunter didn't even touch the football when he stripped the ball there. He didn't even touch it. His hand wrapped around, and he hit Drew Brees on the back of his arm, and that impact was enough to just shoot the ball out of his hand.
He is otherworldly.
It's amazing.
He's an ogre. He's an ogre playing football. He's gigantic. He's so big. It's crazy, man. I'm glad he's on our team.
Like Jared Allen was extremely talented, but man, he was just not the athletic, physical freak that Danielle Hunter is. Like, Danielle Hunter is just next level talent, man.
Yeah, and he's breaking records, man.
Jared Allen doesn't have a fraction of the physical talent that Danielle Hunter has.
In his prime years, and that's a good point.
Yeah, and Jared Allen's a Hall of Famer. And you're right, Adam. Jared Allen was not as athletic as what Danielle Hunter is. Like,
nowhere near.
It's crazy to me, the talent that we have had for years on the defensive edges for the Vikings.
Before we go into the defensive stats, let's talk about the Saints for a second. Is there a window for a Super Bowl win closing? Because I feel like if it's not all the way shut, that door is just about shut. 3 seasons in a row when the postseason is hard enough to do. They got all the way to the championship game for their conference, but Drew Brees isn't getting any younger.
When they got to start paying all these guys, and they've got to start paying off the pushing down of the contract of Drew Brees, they are really going to be hurting.
I think the window, the whole NFL in general, is kind of at this point where Tom Brady's aging out, Drew Brees is aging out, Phillip Rivers is aging out. Like, a lot of the guys that we've seen be really competitive for a while now are coming, but maybe not. I can see Adam, you kind of poo-pooed Phillip Rivers there on that one. But a lot of the guys that have been established quarterbacks they're kind of like aging out a little bit too. So I don't necessarily know if New Orleans, like as a team, their window is closing, but I think the window with Drew Brees is closing. From what I've seen of, what's his name? Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill. Supremely talented guy. I don't know if you can do all the gadget plays and stuff with him full time, but man, oh man, is he talented and a lot of fun to watch for New Orleans. So if they can figure something out with him, there's life after Drew Brees for them.
Taysom Hill, have Joe Webb come in, boom. You got 2 gadget players. Man, they can throw the ball and do whatever.
You joke, but if they keep Teddy and they can do the gadget stuff with Hill, that's not a bad combination either for him.
I don't think so. The way that they can shift, you got to have a guy. You guys were talking about that. We'll talk about that for a little bit too. The way that they can keep a guy like that on the team, they're going to have to pay him a little bit because he's such a special player. But what we talked about before too was we talked about Tim Tebow, and you guys brought it up. I didn't bring it up, but Tim Tebow had an opportunity to do something like that, and he didn't want to because he wanted to be the starter and he wanted to be the face. This guy's just like, give me the ball. I don't care if I run it, if I throw it, if I catch it. I'll play special teams too. Fuck it. I just want to play football, and I know my window's closing because he's like 30 years old, isn't he?
Taysom
Yeah.
Hill, no.
No, he's close to it because he came in the league. What'd they say, 27?
Is it? Because he's. That's what I was thinking. Is that it's only been like maybe 3 years since the Packers brought him in.
27. He's probably 30.
He's 29 years old.
Wow. All right.
Pocatello, Idaho, I think that is, or Indiana. I don't know. ID. But anyways, 6'2", 220, August 23rd, 1990. Wow.
So I don't know. We kind of got off on a tangent talking about him here a little bit too. But if I'm Hill, why do I want to take a contract with the Cleveland Browns? I don't want to take a big money contract. And
Eddie stayed there. I don't want to go to some shit team where I'm not going to get featured and play terrible. No, hell no.
Like he is having success because the Saints and Sean Payton know how to utilize his skill set. And so if I'm him, I'm not going anywhere else.
No
I'm just not doing it.
I don't remember who I was talking to about this, but can you imagine if Green Bay would have held on to Taysom Hill and Aaron Rodgers would have had the confidence to be able to leave a game and let Taysom Hill go in? Wouldn't that be weird?
Oh, thank God they got rid of him.
Hey, what if you put Hill and Lamar Jackson on the field at the same time? What the what the hell? How do you stop that? Yeah, you just don't.
Because at this point in their careers, he doesn't have the history that RG3 has, but they're just about the same.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they be? Oh, that's a scary thought. Oof. That's cool. That's a cool thing you put in there, Fiber. That's right. Because the Saints only lost 3 games this year. The 49ers and a last-second field goal. I don't know what the hell happened when Atlanta came in there and figured out how to play 10 weeks into the season, but that was cool.
Atlanta's coaching staff has been so bad, I'm surprised they figured anything out.
Could be worse, guys. Could be a Lions or a Falcons fan. Remember when they went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago? Oof. Goodness. Going through the defense here, let's talk about some defensive stats. Harrison Smith had the lead. It was the leader of the day. 11 total, 8 by himself. Right behind him was Barr and then Hunter. The team had 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 4 passes defended, and 7 quarterback hits today. Defense played lights out today, man. It was a good example of being aggressive and the bend don't break. You knew you weren't going to contain them to just field goals. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think anybody thought that Sean Payton was going to leave Taysom Hill in there, but when he came in the game, obviously they weren't ready for that multiple times. But overall, that was a pretty damn good defensive performance today. And Anthony Harris, 7 interceptions this season. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Woo.
He's getting himself a contract somewhere.
It was ballsy on Mike Zimmer to try out some new things this week.
That guy.
It was really ballsy to try out those new things. Can you imagine if Zimmer's strategy of moving the defensive ends to the interior of the line, or putting Anderson Dejo at nickel? Can you imagine if those things just wouldn't have worked?
Oh yeah, we would have to find him today.
It's just crazy to think that all this scheming, how much confidence he had to have in this game plan that him and his staff came up with. Just unbelievable.
So I work with a guy who is also a Vikings fan, and we were talking about this beforehand. And he made a comment that I disagreed with, where he tried to say the game has passed Mike Zimmer. And I don't agree with that comment at all.
Well, this is the difference. The game did pass Leslie Frazier by because he didn't evolve.
I was just going to say this.
Yeah.
The game passed Leslie Frazier because it's still the same old stuff year in and year out. And I feel so bad for those Buffalo Bill fans after yesterday.
Now, Mike Zimmer built his career off the AA gap.
Yep.
But now he's branching out. He's trying some new things. He's giving different looks. He's generating pressure from different points. Mm-hmm. He's going for different advantages. If Mike Zimmer ran the same stuff all the time, I'd say, yeah, maybe things are passing him by a little bit. But I can't say that Zimmer's defense is getting boring, vanilla, or predictable in almost any way.
Today was great. I'm glad that things changed up. I'm glad that they worked. But that one couple of times when they put Griffin against the guard, you knew the tackles were good for that team, but the guard was the weak spot. And you have somebody super athletic like Griffin It was just a good call. And now that you're saying it, I didn't notice it as much as what you're saying now, but having Sendejo come in and play nickel, I mean, that's just good adjustment. That's just good coaching overall.
It'll be interesting to see now that this is out there on tape and that the Vikings had success with this package. And so it makes football so interesting, too. What adjustments will the 49ers make? And what adjustments will the Vikings make to try to counter and add more wrinkles to it coming into next
week? Right there. That's a great topic right here.
Of course, the problem is that Minnesota's defensive adjustments are going to change a lot because they're not trying to stop Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. They're going to be focusing on Kittle, and Kittle is going to be Kittle up against a question mark because we have no idea who's going to be able to cover that slot. Are they going to try Andrew Sendejo there again? Because that's a physical mismatch.
I like Andrew Sendejo. I don't want him on George Kittle.
I mean, what do you do there? We talk about that right now too. Do you put Barr or Kendricks out there? Is that your best matchup?
I don't think they're as good in coverage as Sendejo.
I don't like Anthony Barr in coverage, and George Kittle is like a big ass wide receiver. So
grown ass man right there, another grown man.
I don't know if I trust that matchup consistently over the course of a game.
This is going to be the challenge. This is what Mike Zimmer is going to be sitting in his office trying to figure out over the next few days.
I'm glad I don't have to figure it out because I don't know. 49ers got a decent run game. They got a decent run game, too, that the Vikings also have to worry about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can't overlook it because if you double team Kittle the whole time, you got to hope that you stop the run, too. And 100%. They have a great rushing attack. Finishing out the stats here, we already talked about Anthony Harris's interception. Kick returns, Amir Abdullah 1 for 3. Marcus Sherrill's 2 punt returns for 17. Dan Bailey was 2 for 2 on field goals and 2 for 2 on extra points. Thank God. Man, he came in clutch this year. And that leads to punting, and shout out, not so much for the punting, but for the holding for Britton Colquitt. I love you. Thank you for not messing that up.
I was so happy to see a good holder come to the Vikings. I was so tired of watching games, and I'm sure you guys are tired of me talking about the holders in the chat.
But it was all true, though. I mean, look at the difference it made with Dan Bailey. You said it earlier in the season, Adam, when we were talking about it. There was nothing wrong with Dan Bailey.
No.
Dan Bailey didn't suddenly just get better.
I didn't even see a lot wrong with Daniel Carlson.
Yeah, it was the holder.
Looks to be that way.
Ridiculous. Way out of line.
Well, the Vikings pulled up a improbable, huge upset. Is this the biggest win in Zimmer's career? Is it better than the Minneapolis Miracle? I know it's later, but they weren't supposed to win this game today.
Okay, so I think it's a better. I'm not saying it's a more exciting win because that was definitely an exciting finish, but it's a better win because that miracle play was like just some. I don't even know how to describe it. Some kind of like what just happened miracle play that like you don't game plan for that. This was really like they came together as a team, and it wasn't just. It was more than just a Stephon Diggs catch. Okay, you had a couple big plays that led up to it. You had them get stopped a couple times before they were able to come back and persevere and come through with the Rudolph catch in the end zone. So yeah, I think it's a bigger win.
See, I think it's a bigger win too, but not for the same reason. I think this is a bigger win because not only was it a more complete game, but it was a more complete game on the road. US Bank Stadium is just such an amazing thing for the purple and gold. It's such an advantage that going on the road really makes you second guess almost anything this Vikings team does because they don't seem like the same team a lot of the time. Now, for Zimmer to come out, devise a game plan for the Saints, have it work effectively because the Saints have an amazing offense. And the fact that they weren't able to put up points at will is great. So, yeah, I think this is a much more complete win for Zimmer. If he were to put things on his resume, I'd put this above the Miracle game, of course.
I think this is the biggest win in his career. Obviously, more is at stake if you lose your route. But man, to come in as a touchdown dog and they completely ran the Saints over today. You knew, like I said earlier, they were going to make plays, but man, what a great job. Like I said, I had no faith, and I was as pissed off as anyone at the game today. But I can't believe that they won this game, and it wasn't off of a fluke like last time. They were clearly the better team today, and it shocked. I'm shocked that the Vikings made it further in the playoffs this year than the Patriots. That's crazy to me.
Watching the Fox pregame and seeing the experts talking Saints by 17, Saints by whatever,
Oh, yeah.
And then tuning over to ESPN and seeing even Randy Moss pick against the Vikings. It's like, oh, man. It just takes even more wind out of your sails,
Yeah. I agree. I definitely agree.
So we mentioned it last week, and we talked a little bit about the Niners. I'm not going to pull up all their stats and everything. Jimmy Garoppolo is much improved. Their defense is scary. I think it's the best in the NFL.
Debo Samuel is a rising star.
Who?
Debo Samuel,
rookie wide receiver is great. Richard Sherman's still playing out of his mind. It helps because he has a great cast around him.
Nick Bosa.
George Kittle is the best tight end in football, hands down. The Vikings have a rough road ahead if they want to try to make it to the NFC Championship and then eventually the Super Bowl. Because let's say they pull out 2 miracle wins and they weren't supposed to win this week and they win next week, most likely they're going to Green Bay in the 3rd week of January, which is not good. And that sets up favorably for the Packers. But the fact that they won today and the fact that we're even talking about them in the divisional round is amazing. They're going to have their work cut out for them, though, next week against the Niners.
See, I'm a little bit mixed on this, too, because I love that the Vikings won. I'm a big fan. I'm going to be able to work for an extra week. It'll make me extra money over on the Viking Age, which is awesome. But it also makes me work for an extra week, which isn't as awesome.
Oh, Adam.
That's a great plug, too. I'm not trying to shut the show down immediately when you say that, but Adam does a lot of good work. Stuff came up today we don't have to give details on, but Adam had to do a lot of writing today after being emotional and happy after that win, and he does a lot of stuff at the Viking Age. And if you guys go, because we have a lot of extra people in there now, I think we had 18 people at one point today, which is a record for us. But if you guys check out this website that I just put here in the display and go over and click on an article by Adam Carlson, and you can promote it now too if you want. What articles did you write today? Because you guys should check it out, Interact. That'll get Adam – it pays his bills.
Oh, I wrote up the game recap, announcing the victory and a little bit of the step-by-step that happened through each quarter. And then I wrote up a nice little article previewing, not really previewing, but just stating about the Vikings' next game coming up against the 49ers, how they would be the next team on the schedule, some of the problems they might face up against. And then I put out my best and worst, which is one of my favorite articles, because I get to praise the Vikings and talk about all the stuff I love that they did, and my worst, which is where I kind of break down the stuff that I didn't care for as much. And of course, you can also read about all that on the Viking Age app, which is available on Android stores, Apple stores. It's really cool. You can set up your notifications if you want to get notified. You can turn off the audio notifications too if you just want a silent notification. A lot of good Vikings information can go straight to your phone.
Right on, right on.
You got to support our guy right here, man. This is how he pays the bills.
That's right. I got to feed the kitty.
That's right. If you don't go right now to thevikingage.com and interact with all of Adam's articles from now until he first began there, his cat will die tomorrow.
You're taking kibble out of my cat's mouth.
Don't be a jerk, okay? You guys ever watch Jimmy Kimmel on YouTube? I do at work a lot. I watch a lot of stuff from him and Jimmy Fallon. That's how all his stuff ends on YouTube. It's like, hey, if you click here, you will be happy forever and ever, and you'll save a pet's life today. We need to start promoting like that. Just guilt trip the shit out of everybody.
Right. I like that.
Get in there.
So
Hey,
how are we finally going to get our Taco Bell sponsorship that way?
I don't know. I was going to nickname the episode today Mountain Drew because I'm drinking Mountain Dew right now. Try to tag that in as a line, but I also wanted to change the name too while we're on just ranting now and talking about nonsense. I really wanted to name it Ginn and Juice just because I love that song. But I didn't know if Ted Ginn was still on the Saints, and he
is. He had a catch
today.
Yep.
He caught one ball, 4 yards.
Yeah, he had a nice catch where it looked like he was going to do a 9 route, and Trey Waynes was backpedaling, and Ginn, who wasn't really known for tight routes, had a nice cut to the outside and just really caught him off guard.
You know, Ted Ginn never turned into like Randy Moss, kind of like what people thought of him coming out of the draft. But he's had a nice little career for himself.
Yeah.
He's been a solid contributor on a number of good teams.
He knows what his role is, and he goes out and does it.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe
we're coming up on an hour. I think we should probably wrap this show up.
Yeah, it's time. It's over. I want to give a shout out to Scott Schwab. I don't know if you helped. I'm going to assume that you did because you talked about it, but promoting this stuff on Twitter and trying to get more Viking fans in here. We had up to 18 people watching at one point, which is a new record for us, which is cool. You know, it's a small operation here. We do it for fun, but thank you guys.
Hey, we're a small operation that outlasts a lot of other podcasts.
That's true. We're still kicking
into that, but that was funny that you brought that up.
Yeah.
So can't believe the Vikings are still in it. We're going to talk about it next week. We will recap the 49ers game. We're not going to give a set time because we have different schedules, but we're glad that we got to do this pretty quickly after the game today. We're glad.
Don't forget the Vikings 49ers game is on Saturday.
Right. It's going to be the first game of the weekend, actually.
So be sure to make sure that you don't think Sunday because it won't be on Sunday. The Vikings have a short week to get ready for this, so hopefully they can get everything all figured out and get ready to roll.
Oh, I forgot to mention this. We should probably talk about this. This is kind of important. Kevin Stefanski's getting head coaching looks, just in case you guys didn't hear about that. I think the Browns are trying to interview him this week.
Yep, they put in a request, and apparently they will have to wait an extra week.
Which is great.
Why would you ever, why would you ever go to Cleveland? Well, I mean,
because Baker Mayfield and all his commercials, dog.
Before Cleveland hired Freddie Kitchens, they did their analytics to find out which head coach they should hire. And guess what? I told them to hire Stefanski. And they didn't. They hired Kitchens.
Were they the same team that did the analytics on Teddy Bridgewater?
They were.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we're going to spend all this money on this report that tells us what to do. And then let's just fuck it. Just paper shred.
Do what we're going to do anyway.
Paper shred that shit. Who cares?
Browns
what?
How do you first? Let's shit on the Browns for 30 more seconds.
Okay.
How do you have the most rookie touchdowns in your first year, and then you look like crap the next year? How do you? Did Baker Mayfield like
he only
that?
did it to get the commercial endorsements.
Did you see the video with Adam Schefter?
It got worse.
Did you guys see Adam Schefter? It was on one of the ESPN shows, and usually Schefter is pretty kind of like by the books report on things.
Right.
And he talked about the Browns, and he went absolutely off on Cleveland as an organization, calling them the place where NFL head coaches go to die. And he's talking about how nobody has ever went to Cleveland and left and been better because of it. And it's like, and this is Adam Schefter. It's like, holy shit.
Oh, that's so funny. No, I didn't see it, but I want to find it. We need to dig it.
I'll link it to you. It's
one thing we do have to kind of wonder, though, is that the post-game interview, the Viking Saints, why was that interviewer so intent on finding out what the design of that play was?
I don't know. That was weird, too.
He kept asking Kyle Rudolph, was that designed to go to you? Then Kirk Cousins, they interviewed him next. Was that play designed to go to Kyle Rudolph? No, they're not going to tell you.
Hey, Kyle Rudolph, you just caught maybe the biggest pass of your career. Were you supposed to do that?
Yeah, we designed up that play, so when you see us out in that formation, we start running that. Just know the guard over here, you know.
That reporter is Chris Thomason of reporters. You jackass. Zimmer was giving him the cold shoulder today too. It was an all around great day for the Vikings. When Chris Thomason gets the cold shoulder too, you know it's a good day.
It's a good day. It's a solid day. It's a solid victory.
So was that play designed to go to Rudolph? And then even when he talked to Kirk Cousins, it was Kyle Rudolph wouldn't tell us, but we got to know. No, you don't got to know. You don't got to know.
Goodness, man. All right,
Okay, one
last
final
thing
thing
on the
before I'm
show,
done
let's
talking about
check
this
out
game.
Kyle West, he is our guy down here at the bottom of this pyramid.
What's going
Go
on?
check out his work at Phantasm Digital. You can get Purple People Podcast merchandise there. You can also get other stuff. If you don't want to buy a shirt with our names on it, not our actual names, the Purple People Podcast, you can buy other stuff there too.
I could put a shirt with our names on it. Just a purple shirt that says Kyle Smith.
Yeah,
And, like,
wear that around. Just
yeah,
wear
you should
it
wear that.
around with my name on it just to get questions asked.
Right. Correct. You can do that. Yeah, you should check it out. I actually have a new design for a Purple People Podcast t-shirt that I've had for like 2 months that I haven't
Nice.
uploaded. It's been done. I should probably do that sometime.
Yeah, you should.
One last thing before we take off. I gotta talk about this because I was laughing several times. Kirk Cousins in the huddle when he'd yell and his voice would just crack. It was like, are you going through puberty over there? What's going on? What's happening?
He is not a yeller.
No, he's not a yeller.
You can clearly tell he's not a yeller. And man, is he... I wish he would just be like, it doesn't matter. But when they talk to him like after the game, like on the field, this is like the biggest victory of his career. Like, in a little ways, don't you guys want him to be like amped up like Everson Griffin and just be like, I'm so excited. And he gives the most boring, bland interview after the biggest win of his career.
Captain Caucasian every time. But
Yeah.
I'm happy that we got a you like that this weekend because he said, hey,
Right.
everybody, get out of my way. I proved everyone wrong, and now you can't hold it over my head anymore. So good for him.
I just wanted to tell me if that play was designed for Kyle Rudolph.
I'll tweet him. We'll find out. We'll get to the bottom of this.
That's all I have for this week. You guys got anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that'll do it.
That's
All
it.
right.
Thank you guys for tuning in and putting up with our nonsense for an hour. Skull Vikings, glad they got a win today. Holy crap, what a game. And it's on to San Francisco. Let's see what they can do.
I hope we're in as good a mood next week.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Enjoy this moment, guys, because we don't know how next week's going to go. But
Right.
we're going to root this team on regardless. But tune in next week, and Adam Carlson is going to sign us off.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who joined us in the chat, interacted with us on social media, shared our podcast or our stuff over the last week. We're going to be back next week to talk about the Vikings game against the 49ers. But in the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.